Today I am going to review a Facet Jewelry box, and we're going to make the actual projects, which there are two inside here, on this video today. This is a stringing project box, and that's why I'm doing it on my beginning channel. You can also choose a stitching box, which I have reviewed and done the projects on my other channel, Gina's Gem Creations, if you want to see what a stitching box is like. This one, as I said, is the stringing box, and we will be doing it today. In this particular box, you will find two projects. Just like in the stitching box, there are also two projects. The website is facetjewelrybox.com, and you can go there and see all of the details about getting a subscription. This is a monthly subscription box, and it starts right around $23 to $25, something like that. Go to facetjewelrybox.com and you will see all the details on how to order your box for your monthly subscription. Now let's look and see what's inside this particular box. Like I said, there are two projects. It comes with full directions on how to do the projects. In this one, there's a bracelet and a necklace. This is a gemstone bracelet, and this one is, it looks like glass and crystal. Faceted glass, maybe fire polish, something. We'll find that out in a moment. And in this particular booklet, you will find exactly all the materials and what you will also need if it calls for a few more things. And most of them, it's all pretty self-contained, but it looks like in this one, we'll need a little bit of glue. So I have this crazy glue. It says super glue or hypo cement, and this is what I have on hand, so this is what I'm going to use. And then you'll need scissors, round nose pliers, flat nose pliers, glue, looper, and craft knife. Optional. I don't know that I'll need all those things, so I'm just going to get my crazy glue out and probably a couple pairs of my pliers. And then we'll go ahead and look and see what is in the box. And we're going to start with the bracelet. So let me grab that. Each project is contained within one little bag, so that you will know exactly what you're going to grab. So this one is for the framed gemstone bracelet. And I'm going to go ahead and take out what's in here so I know what we need here. So I have got plastic cord, bead frames, and framed gemstone bracelet beads. So it looks like it has a couple of little metal beads here, and then it has the gemstone chrysocolla beads. They've also included a flexible needle. So let's see what's in here. Maybe it's a big eye needle. No, it's just a little flexible needle that you can thread your plastic through and run it through your beads. So let's see. Let me go ahead and get all these out, and we will see how we start this project. Okay, so I have laid out all of the pieces and parts of my little bracelet here, and it's got some tips here that you can read first before you start about the frame bead tip and possibly the holes being blocked and how to unblock them. And then a stringing tip. If you find it hard to pull it through, then use your pliers to pull it through. You can read these things. They will help you. But right now, we're just going to start with the first step, which is 1. Pre-stretch the elastic cord by tugging on it. Thread the elastic cord onto a needle with a 2-inch tail. String the whole of the frame of the bead. String one hole of a frame bead and a round bead, and then the other hole of the frame. So in other words, we're going to take our cord just like you would do with any stretchy cord project and just stretch it. I just run it through one hand and pull with the other and stretch it so that it's pre-stretched, so that after you've made your bracelet, it doesn't stretch out and suddenly not fit anymore. So I just give it a good stretch, like so. And then, once I've done that a couple of times, let's move this out of the way, you are supposed to thread this through your needle. When I use stretchy cord, I do not often use a needle, but because we're using these little frames, it'll probably help quite a bit. So we're going to pick up a frame and a bead and line the holes up the best we can here. If I can see where the holes are. Okay, I'm just going to line them up best I can, and then I'm going to put the needle through the frame and then through the hole of the bead. And hopefully once you get that lined up pretty well, you can just get it through the other side fairly easily. And then pull it through. Now this is the issue that I have with this when you use a needle. Pulling the doubled part of the tail is usually kind of hard, so just give it a good tug. Now what I like to do is put something on the end of my thread. Let me get a little clip here. I like to put it on the end of my elastic just so that as I'm stringing, it doesn't fall off the other end. Of course, this is a really nice long piece of elastic, so it probably won't happen anyway, but I'm going to go ahead and put a little clip at the end. And then I'm going to continue by picking up another frame and another bead, lining them up hole to hole, and then, let me get you a little closer, and then I'm just going to go through the holes and then pull it through and continue doing it. It says number 2, string frames and rounds until the strand is the desired length, keeping in mind that elastic cord stretches. For a 7-inch, 18-centimeter bracelet, use 18 pairs of frames and rounds. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let's do one more on camera, then I'll do the rest off camera, and we'll come back and do the next step. So I'm just going to line my frame and the hole up together here the best I can. Some of the frames are slightly smaller than the bead, so it can be kind of hard to line them up. And then again, the hole of my bead is much bigger than the hole. There we go. All right. And then I'm going to pull it through. And I'm just going to continue doing this until I get the length I want, and I will be back. So I have successfully strung on 16 beads. It says 18 for a 7-inch bracelet. My wrist is about 6.5, so I can get away with the 16 considering it's on a stretch. The issue I am having, and because this is a product review, I am going to disclose exactly what issue I ran into. Gemstone beads are notorious for being slightly off size and their holes being drilled a little bit differently in each one, and sometimes poorly drilled. It just happens with gemstone beads. You find that a lot. I've worked with a lot of gemstones, and I can tell you this is not something that doesn't happen. It's something that happens all the time. The problem I'm having is these 4 beads are bigger in diameter than these 16 beads, and they will not fit into the frame so that I can line up the holes no matter how hard I try. They are just too big for the frame. So, though they gave me plenty and even more than I need, I am short a couple simply because of the fact that they will not fit in there. And it isn't a matter of me not putting enough effort into it. They just flat will not go in there. They go just a quarter over the bead, and I cannot get them on there enough to arrange the holes in the right spot. So I'm going to stop where I'm at, and I'm going to go ahead and finish up the bracelet. Now they gave me 2 of the big hole, these beads here to finish up with. And this bead is basically on there to hide the knot. I am going to go ahead, and it's nice that they give you 2 of everything, give you 2 of the needles, because one of them might get bent up or pull apart or something. That's really nice that they give you extra stuff. And they did do that with the beads too. Just however, natural gemstones, it's just, it can happen. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cut off the end with my needle on so I don't have to pull it back through. And then I'm going to leave myself, they give you a lot of cord, so I'm going to leave myself a few extra inches on this side, and I'm going to go ahead and string on my big hole bead here. I just put it on, and then it says in the directions to tie a square knot, glue it, and then slide it through the big bead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one end of my bracelet, and I'm just going to tie a square knot. So I'm going to put one end over the other and then under. So I'm going over and under, pull it together, and then I'm going to go over and under again while trying to keep my big bead in the right spot. So over and under again. It's just a square knot. I'm going to pull it together and tighten it, like so. And I'm also going to hold on to these 2 ends. This is just something I like to do. And then I'm going to actually pull 2 sides of the bracelets to tighten it too. Then I'm going to stretch this out a little bit, expose my knot, make sure it's nice and tight. And you can tie more than one knot if you want, but let's see if I can get this tight. I'm going to spread it apart, and I make a mess on my fingers with my glue, but there is in this little book a tool that they inform you about that helps you do the glue. It's called a glue looper. I do not have one of those. I've never used one of those. I don't make a lot of stretchy bracelets, but occasionally I'll make some. And this is just the way I do it. I just stretch the knot, expose it, and I always use the brush crazy glue so that I can control it. Okay, so now you can see my little knot right here and my 2 ends. I'm just going to cut these off, and then I'll just pull the bead over the knot like so. And that is my bracelet. Let's see if it fits. And it does. I could have used 2 more beads. I really could have. But it'll fit a very small wrist. Mine is average size, my wrist, about 6.5 to, maybe 6 3/4 or so. But that is that project, and I'll go ahead and get the things ready for the necklace now. Okay, and we'll be right back. The bag for what they're calling the split strung necklace. So let's see what's inside here. We've got some check teardrops, some Miyuki seed beads. They look like they're like a 6/0. Check round beads. Look like a fire polish. And some findings. So I've got my crimp beads, my round end closed jump ring, and a lobster claw clasp, and then some stringing wire. I'm going to go ahead and get these laid out, and we will begin the process of making this necklace. And I believe we will need some crimp pliers and some wire cutters, and basically flat nose and straight nose pliers. I will be back. Okay, so I have laid out all the pieces and parts here. And we're going to go ahead and start with the directions here. It says, number 1, with wire cutters, cut the beading wire into 2 equal pieces and center an 8mm bead over both wires. So let's cut this. I'm just going to hold them together, and let's see, I need some wire cutters. Those aren't my wire cutters. Here we go. And I'm going to cut this in half. And then it says center an 8mm bead over both wires. So these are my 8mm beads, the big check bead here. Okay, so center it. I'm going to pull it to the middle of the wire here. That's how I'm understanding the directions anyway. Let's see. This wire has been in a little baggie, so it's kind of curly. So I'm going to struggle with it a little bit for a second here. I apologize, but that is what it is. And let me get these together and those together. Okay, it's centered. And it says at one end, string a 6/0 seed bead on one wire and a teardrop bead on the other wire. So I'm just going to take my little clip and I'm going to clip this here since I'm struggling with this wire. So curly. Sorry, guys. I'm sure there's a trick to this, but I don't seem to have it. So now I'm going to do a 6/0 on one of the wires and a teardrop on the other wire. And then it says repeat the 3 bead pattern on both ends until the strands are within 2 inches of the finished length, and with a 6/0 and teardrop. So I'm going to go ahead and just continue doing this. So I'm going to pick up an 8mm bead, slide it down, and this is what it looks like so far. Let me get you close so you can see. And I'm just going to continue doing the same thing. I'll pick up a 6/0 on one wire and a teardrop on the other wire. And I'll just continue doing that until I am 2 inches from the end. And we'll be back. Okay, so I don't know if I read the directions correctly or not, but I don't see any point in centering this. So what I am going to do is I am just going to put my little wire clamp 2 inches or somewhere around there from the end, and I'm just going to push all of this down. And I'm just going to string the whole thing in one fell swoop here, or whatever you want to call it. I probably didn't say that right. I don't care. But right like this, I'm just reserving a couple inches for my crimp bead. I might even reserve just a little bit more just to make sure I have enough room. And then I'm just going to string, since it's the same pattern, I'm going to string one end all the way to the other end, and then we'll come back and crimp these off. So I may have read that wrong where it said to center it. It may have just meant to put both wires on the bead. But like I said, I don't see any point in stringing one side and then stringing the other side. So I am just going to go ahead and modify this to where it works for me. I think it'll be easier to control these wires. So I'm going to go ahead at this point and put another 8mm bead on. Bring it down. And then I'll do my 6/0 and my drop bead, and I'll continue until I have about 2 inches left on this side of the wire. Okay, so I have went ahead and strung until I am out of 6/0 seed beads. I still have a couple of these little guys, but I'm out of 6/0 seed beads. So I am to the length that I can go, and we are going to do the next step. Now, I do believe I read that wrong in the first place, because it does say on this on one end over both wires, string 2 8mm crimp, 2 8mm and a crimp bead and the lobster claw clasp. So I think I just made it more difficult in the beginning when I read center it, because I design, so I have certain things in my mind when it calls for a certain type of thing, and centering to me is putting it in the middle of the two wires. I think it just meant put the bead over both wires at the same time. So anyway, I have strung the entire thing, and now I am to put 2 8mm beads on this end. Now I must say that it's a clever idea. It's a cute project. The beads are nice. The only thing that I am struggling with is this beading wire. Of course, when you put it in a little package, it curls, which is fine, but it also kinks as you're working with it, trying to straighten it out. I don't like that very much. I did struggle with it quite a bit. I'm used to using Soft Flex, which is a little bit different than this, and you know, we seasoned beaders, we get used to one certain thing, and that's what we like. But the project itself is working out fine. And I'm just continuing to struggle with this beading wire a little bit. So now I've put on my 2 8mm beads. Next, I'm going to put on a crimp bead. See if I can get it over all these kinks here. And slide that down. And then I'm going to put on my lobster claw. Of course, I could cut some of this length. I don't need all this, but it's okay. I am going to go through the lobster claw clasp with both wires, perhaps. There we go. And then I will go through the crimp bead and the 2 8mm beads with both wires. If I can organize them to get them both through here. And pull. So I didn't get them both. Okay, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to cut off some of this extra stuff because all it's doing is driving me crazy. So I'm going to cut this off. Hopefully I can organize my strands a little bit better. Get them the same length. And the thing with the kits too is you can always modify it. You don't have to, you can do whatever you need to make it work for you. So I've always done that. I've always just modified everything to work the way I want it to. Push them through. And I'm still having issues. Sorry guys. It's just this type of wire I'm not used to working with. It's giving me a little bit of a headache. Okay, so let's see if I can straighten it out a little bit better. If I have to, I'll go one bead or one wire at a time through the crimp bead and the 2 beads, but I'd like to do it both at the same time. And I'm not going to go through that second fire polish bead because I'm just struggling with this wire. So I'm going to do it the best I can here until I can pull this one out. There we go. And then I'm going to pull these down. Bring it down. Hope I'm in frame so you guys can see me. And I'll just straighten these wires out, make them as neat as I can. And then I'm going to crimp my crimp bead. So I'm going to grab my crimping pliers and I am going to position them. This is a mighty crimper. I need a regular size crimping plier. Okay, here we go. I have several sizes of crimp pliers, so let me grab this, and I am going to go into the second divot of my crimping pliers, placing the flat side against the bead, and I'm going to squeeze, and that crimps a little crease in the middle. And then I will position in the first divot of my pliers the crimp bead, and I will squeeze it closed. And then I will cut these extra wires down, and that is our end of the necklace. I will do the same thing on this end, and instead of putting the lobster claw clasp on it, I will put the loop on it so that the clasp can attach to the loop. So once I have finished that, I will be back. It's the same exact process as on this end I will be doing on this end. Okay, so I had finished my necklace. I crimped the other side, putting on the closed jump ring, and attached, then went ahead and put my lobster claw clasp through it. And this is what these little projects look like. Here's the bracelet and here's the necklace. They're cute little projects. Like I said, a couple little struggles here and there, but they turned out cute. They're clever. The only issue that I have is the beading wire that was included, and that might have just been me, the way I was handling it. But perhaps I'll talk to the administration of the Facet Jewelry box and see if perhaps they would consider a different beading wire. That was a little difficult to work with. But other than that, I think the ideas are really cute. I like the fact that there's 2 projects included. I like the fact that there's extra beads and extra crimp beads, like there was 4 crimp beads in case you drop one, or if you don't quite get the first one right and you crush it or something and you need another one. That's really nice. There's plenty of stuff to work with, and I like the fact that there's 2 projects. I like the fact that they're 2 very different projects, and I think that the subscription box is a really nice one. So if you would like to order your subscription for either stringing or stitching projects, then go ahead and go to facetjewelrybox.com and read all the details about it, and go ahead and get yourself subscribed. Bye-bye.